Om Tavakatamritam Taptajivanam Kavipiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatatam Bhuvanardantiye Purita Janaha. Om, the nectar of your words, the praise of poets seers, elixir to parched souls, delight to listening ears, cleanser of all sins, is great and glorious. They who spread it far and wide on earth are most generous. Good evening, friends. This evening we will continue reading from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are presently on page 139 near the bottom. And for those I've been informed that not everyone has the book, but are using Kindle and other electronic media, and they don't have the page numbers that I'm referring to. So the chapter we are on is the Master in Keshab. And I guess the date of that, it's a very long chapter, but the date is October 27, 1882, chapter 5. Last Wednesday, when we had a class, Swami Nikhilananda graciously gave the class, and he left off on page 139 of the last paragraph. But it seems that he stopped in the middle of the paragraph, so I will just start from the beginning of that paragraph. And Sri Ramakrishna is talking now also to devotees, both Keshab devotees and followers, and also his own devotees and followers. So he's saying, even if one lives in the world, one must go into solitude now and then. It will be of great help to a man if he goes away from his family, lives alone, and weeps for God, even for 3 days. Even if he thinks of God for 1 day in solitude, when he has the leisure, that too will do him good. Well, I'm sure wives also need to get away from the husband and the children and go into solitude now and then. So he's just speaking as referring to people in general, individuals. Everyone needs to take this break, to take time out of their lives and think about God, or the greater scheme of things, and what their relationship is to that. People shed a whole jug of tears for wife and children, or husband and children, but who cries for the Lord? Now and then one must go into solitude and practice spiritual discipline to realize God. Living in the world and entangled in many of its duties, the aspirant during the first stage of spiritual life finds many obstacles in the path of concentration. Then he gives an analogy. While the trees on the footpath are young, they must be fenced around, otherwise they will be destroyed by cattle. The fence is necessary when the tree is young, but it can be taken away when the trunk is thick and strong. Then the tree won't be hurt, even if an elephant is tied to it. So here he's saying we go into solitude to be away from all our worldly worries, our distractions, so we can practice concentration. Well, practicing, what he means is practicing, doing our spiritual practices with concentration. What else? What kind of spiritual practices? Well, reading of the scriptures, doing some deep thinking and contemplation of what you're reading, thinking about God and all His glories and His vastness, the characteristics that are given to Him, His omniscience, His omnipresence, and try to think and feel that He is ever present, knows everything, understands your situation, and inspires you to actually sit down and concentrate. He says, giving you this opportunity to inspire you to take some time off and think about Him. But it's not uncommon that within those 3 days that you'll start panging for some part of your life, worrying, oh, did I turn off the lights? I forgot to do my taxes, or this and that all come to mind. Or you'll be worried about what happens when you get back to work. These things, all these thoughts will come. Even if you take 3 days, if you take 1 day, there might not be enough time to be overloaded by all those thoughts. But 3 days, 7 days, a month, we do not have the capacity to concentrate on something or pursue something with that kind of diligence and concentration without them coming into our minds during that practice. So then we start to practice dispassion. Think of the thoughts, what are they really? You can't, they are not within your bounds to manage at that time, because theoretically you put that aside so you can spend your time thinking about God. But to increase the intensity of that desire to realize God is also an emotional outpouring. Here he's saying we cry, when our wife or our children disappoint us, we cry all kinds of tears, or other family members. But we cry out of what? Self-pity? What about the kind of a cry of longing for something more real than, or more permanent than wife and children and family and all the struggles? Those are all those are all transitory. They come in the cycles, they go up and down. But if you can maintain equanimity of mind through all those ups and downs, then you will find peace. You'll understand that this is only for now, it's only temporary, let me deal with these issues. To be able to get that kind of equanimity of mind requires that you take time out to yourself and practice concentration. Because as we all know, that when we concentrate on something that we love to do, that time passes by quickly. We actually feel a certain amount of satisfaction, a certain amount of peace. And that is difficult to attain when you're busy with 1,000 things going on in your life. So even if you can't concentrate on God, just concentrate on a few inspirational thoughts, a few words, and then just see if you can make those part of your life. That would be the initial first step. But again, you kind of have to protect yourself. This going into solitude is a way of protecting yourself from the outside world coming into you. That also means you don't take your phone with you and all the other devices, checking your email. That's where you just say you're out to lunch or something. You're not available. So you can give your full attention to what your purpose was for taking this break. But given that we have decided to give ourselves time for this contemplation, we should also take that time and say, well, this time is limited. Just say, well, okay, for the next 12 hours, I will only think of such and such. I will only read the Gospel or the Bhagavad Gita or some other scripture, and just think of that, its implications, what does it mean, try to understand, try to think of it from various points of view, see how it impacts your life, compare it to the life that you've been leading, and figuring out, well, how can I take what I'm doing now and apply it when I get out into the world again? So, and this kind of peace can come either from reading the scriptures in solitude. Well, what? You can also go camping. I mean, you can go camping, you can go to a park, sit in your car, go to a temple, or you just, many people, if they have many Indian families will have a shrine in their home. Well, having a shrine in your home and then everybody knows where to find you is not exactly a convenient place, so you might actually want to relocate. So, because you'll hear all the sounds going on in the house and all the arguments or all the joys and children running around, all the animals, your pets. So, trying to find a place, where would one find solitude? Well, go to a church, go outdoors. So these are, and then he's also saying that while we are still young in our spiritual path, we need a certain amount of protection. So even a family unit is a protection from when a child is born. They are protected by the family circle from all the things of the world, from coming in and overloading or not giving the proper nutrition, mental and physical nutrition to the child. So the family circle is part of the protection, so that child can grow up, develop a stronger inner character, learn lessons from the parents, understand the kind of life that they might have to lead in the outside world, so that they'll be ready to tackle the challenges. When we go for a spiritual retreat, that's also giving us a chance to regroup so that we can tackle the challenges in our lives. So we can maintain equanimity of mind under all the influences and circumstances we may be faced. And when that character becomes strong enough, or our conviction in God becomes strong enough, then we can basically go anywhere and feel pretty sure that the outside world and all its attractions and will not dissuade us from our own inner core, our own beliefs and understandings, our own realizations. And then when that becomes strong, Sri Ramakrishna says that even if an elephant is tied to such a tree, the elephant won't be able to move the tree. So these periods of solitary retreat, of solitude, help. It's where we gain strength. If you were going to a gym and need to exercise to build up your muscle strength, well, you would do all the exercises necessary, but you would be really upset if every person next to you comes up and asks for this or that, or what are you eating, what are you doing, all these questions. You would consider that as a distraction. So you would, if you are serious about it, you also want to just be you want to be left alone to concentrate exactly on what you're doing. So, and that is a form of mental discipline together with the physical discipline. So you want to exercise properly, following the dictates of your coach or physical therapist or whatever, but you want to do that with concentration. You don't want to just do 20 push-ups and then in any old way. There's a specific way of doing it so that you don't overstrain unnecessary muscles or weaken other muscles or compensate for other sore muscles. So also we compensate our own mental deficiencies by convincing ourselves of one thing or the other. So, but if we pursue it with proper introspection and see where do we really stand, and then from that point move forward, well, that's your spiritual teacher or your guide will tell you, well, these are your deficiencies. This is where you can improve. Just as the coach, your weightlifting coach, will tell you, no, these are your deficiencies. You may not be ready to lift 200 pounds, but this is the technique with the dumbbells. Start with that. So even just going to the gym and concentrating on specific exercises, that's a period of solitude. You're training the body and the mind with that purpose in mind. And also when you sit for meditation, you are doing mental exercises, spiritual exercises. Either you're concentrating on an image or on a sound or on a particular name of God. And every time you repeat a name of God or concentrate on a particular sound, that's the equivalent of somebody doing a push-up. So then Sri Ramakrishna continues. He says, the disease of worldliness is like typhoid. And there's a huge jug of water and a jar of savory pickles in the typhoid patient's room. If you want to cure him of his illness, you must remove him from that room. I don't know how many of you have ever smelled a jar of pickle or some other very savory food. In this case, what he's referring to is something like tamarind pickle, which is a sweet, sour smell, but just by smelling it, you'll start salivating. So there are certain things in this world that will make us salivate. For a man, it could be a woman. For a woman, it could be a man. It could be certain foods. It could be you could salivate for power, for position, for career. You could salivate for anything on a worldly scale, where you feel that just the fact that it appears in front of you, you're going to say you want that. So now the thing is, the only way to avoid that strong reaction is you have to isolate yourself from those items. So it's like if a person wants to give up smoking, he should not be hanging around his fellow smokers, or if he wants to give up alcohol, probably not a good idea to be walking into the bar or accepting drinks at friends' homes. So, but yet if you saw a drink there, and your eyes went to there, you would probably start recalling every instance of, wow, that tastes really nice, or that tastes good, or what alcohol is that? So, or what flavor, what cigarette is that, or what tobacco is that? Just because that smell has ignited, has flooded your mind with all the sensory experience that you've had in the past about that. So the only way you can really be cured of that is keep those items away from you. If those items aren't around you, then they won't attract you on the gross level. That doesn't mean that when you sit there in meditation or in prayer, that those thoughts aren't going to come. But the trick then is not to act on those thoughts, but to just redirect the thoughts to something for the purpose of why you're actually there. I want to realize God, or I want to pray to God for more devotion, or I want to understand God, I want to understand His nature, and all these things. Or you just want to concentrate on one object, but everything else is a distraction. So either concentrate on the light, or on the sound, or on the name of God. And then the mind itself cannot concentrate on more than one thing at a time. Use that to your advantage. So the more you can think about, keep your mind single-minded attention to one object, the strength of any other object diminishes. It's the same as you moving forward with a particular goal in mind, and you leave behind what was distracting, or what is behind you. I don't care what's behind me now when I look forward here, except for the camera's back there, but I'm not paying attention to the wall. But as I move forward, my eyes are on my set goal. So where I've come from, that's not in my mind. If I spit there, am I going to be thinking about that spit when I walk away from it? No, it's just going to be there. My mind will be on something else. So you want to keep these objects away from you on the gross and the worldly level here, but also they can come into your mind on a more subtle level. But you start by avoiding them in your daily interactions in life. So he says, the worldly man is like the typhoid patient. The various objects of enjoyment are the huge jug of water. Yeah, when you have this smell of tamarind and you start salivating, well, you actually feel like you want to drink water or something to suppress that salivating, that saliva. Or if you're smelling some pickle, you'll find that you need something to quench that thirst. So the various objects of enjoyment are the huge jug of water, and the craving for their enjoyment is his thirst. The very thought of pickles makes the mouth water. You don't have to bring them near, and he is surrounded with them. So all our pickles, all the water, all the things we desire, we're surrounded by these things. And the companionship of woman is the pickle, and for women it's the men are the pickles, and hence treatment in solitude is necessary. So one may enter the world after attaining discrimination and dispassion. Well, part of this idea of being in solitude is to seriously question everything about the world, discriminating between what is necessary, unnecessary, what is real, what is unreal, what is permanent, what is transitory. So discrimination and then dispassion for the things that are obstructions to our spiritual goal, our goal. So develop dispassion for the alcohol or the tobacco. Read all the doctor reports. How many people have suffered lung cancers rampant amongst smokers? Make that, bury that thought deep in your mind and all the people that are suffering from it, and realize that if you keep on this path, then you may suffer similar consequences. So discrimination means proper thinking of between what is right and what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is best for you spiritually, what is not. And then convince yourself that, no, what is not beneficial, that's what I should hold on to. And you have to practice it. Sometimes your mind will want to go back to the old ways. So you have to keep reminding yourself. And these periods of solitude, even if it's just for a few minutes at the end of a day, to introspect and say, yeah, no, I misbehaved today. These thoughts came into my mind. I'll try to do better tomorrow. So constant reminder and constant discrimination. And then see the bad side of some of these things. The good side is that you may enjoy smoking, but the bad side, it might outweigh the good side. So that's where proper thinking comes into play. In the ocean of the world, there are 6 alligators: lust, anger, and so forth. Well, there's lust, anger, then there's also delusion, self-conceit, greed, and jealousy. These are considered the alligators, the things that will get us all riled up, that will disturb our mind. So he says, but you need not fear these alligators if you smear your body with turmeric before you go into the water. So in India, and maybe in other places, the smell of turmeric is disgusting to the alligators, the crocodiles. So by smearing your body with these things, that will dissuade them from attacking you. So we need to protect ourselves from from lust, from anger, from delusion, self-conceit, greed, and jealousy. And that's where we have to properly discriminate between these things and also develop a dispassion for them. So discrimination is the knowledge of what is real and what is unreal. It is the realization that God alone is real and eternal substance, that all else is unreal, transitory, and impermanent. And you must cultivate intense zeal for God. You must feel love for Him and be attracted to Him. Well, just as an alcoholic might love his glass of wine or liquor, you have to develop a love for God that attracts you to God, so that all these other attractions seem insipid, and don't have the same pull on you. And so by constantly thinking about God, constantly doing your spiritual practices, you will develop an attraction to those practices. And read the scriptures. What have others experienced with regard to God, and be inspired by their lives? How has developing one's spiritual life improved your worldly life? So you'll read inspirational stories about that, and that might get you to try it out and keep up the practice. But yes, you can't maintain anything unless you develop a love for it. So often you'll see that they recommend singing the names and glories of God, or thinking about remembering the lives of the different saints and seers. And one of the most popular things are remembering the life of Sri Krishna and his life in Vrindavan. So he says the gopis of Vrindavan felt the attraction of Krishna. And so they would sing songs to remind them about Krishna, about his life, and by thinking of his life and his joys and his effect on everyone, and their zeal for love for God, that might wear off onto us. So when we read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and we can feel that we are in his presence as he's giving these teachings, well, if we can really feel that, then we are no longer in our worldly space. We are now in that mental state of where we are here in the story, we're hearing these words, and the rest of our life for that period of time is outside our mind. So then he goes on, he says, "Let me sing you a song." And the song goes, "Listen, the flute has sounded in yonder wood. There I must fly, for Krishna waits on the path. Tell me, friends, will you come along or no? To you my Krishna is merely an empty name. To me, he is the anguish of my heart. You hear his flute notes only with your ears, but oh, I hear them in my deepest soul. I hear his flute calling, Radha, come out. Without you, the grove is shorn of its loveliness." So here we are playing with the sublimating different forms of love into love of God. And as that love intensifies, all we want is to experience love of God, where even where human love and affection seem lower than love of God. And the Master sang this song with tears in his eyes. And then he said to Keshab and the other Brahma devotees, "Whether you accept Radha and Krishna or not, please do accept their attraction for each other." So he wanted them to understand love of God, regardless of how you might love God. So try to create that same yearning in your heart for God. Yearning is all you need in order to realize him. So yeah, you have to want it more than anything else. So I will leave you with that for today. And I will just give you a reminder that this Friday we will be starting, Swami Satchimananda speaks on the direct disciples, the householder disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. And we will be starting part 1 of Bhavanath Chattopadhyay. So you are welcome to attend that in person. In fact, it's encouraged that you attend in person. For those of you that decide that no, life is better online, that is not really the case. So I would encourage you to actually come in person if you can. And I will conclude with a chant. Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanakampā Dhitavigraham Vayim Ishavataram Paramesamityam Tvam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. We salute that Ramakrishna, who is without blemish, eternal and infinite in forms, who has assumed human form out of compassion for the devotees, who is God incarnate, the Supreme Lord, and who is most worshipful. Om, peace, peace, peace to all beings.